Joined by our hockey analyst, Mark Mathot. Mark, yesterday, Mike Johnson ranked the top 5 teams in the Western Conference. You're based in Ottawa, so it's a natural. Today, we turn our attention to the East. We want you to list it. Give us your top 5 Stanley Cup contenders in the Eastern Conference.
Yeah, well, Gino, now that we're nearing that 70-game mark, we're starting to get a better indication of where all these teams sort of slot out. So we'll start with number 5 here. I have the Toronto Maple Leafs. Now, with them, it's pretty straightforward. I have them down at 5, mainly due to the inconsistencies at goaltending. But I love what Brad Treliving has done with the lineup. The old formula wasn't working, so we had to make a couple tweaks, and he's managed to bring in some much-needed toughness and grit that I believe will serve them well in the playoffs. At number 4, I'm going with the Boston Bruins. I know they have a 91-point season on the go right now, but I do have concerns, especially with the way they've been playing recently. 4-2-4 in their last 10 games. And a lot like Toronto, pretty inconsistent in goal and on defense. But they have a strong leadership group, a great coach in Jim Montgomery, and are still a very dangerous team to play against because they play the right way. To follow that up at number 3, the Carolina Hurricanes. They've sort of been my dark horse pick here since the start of the season. They kind of fly under the radar up there in North Carolina, but I think they have one of the best decors in the NHL, which is vital come playoff time. And the addition of Jake Gensel and Evgeny Kuznetsov immediately adds that offense that was much needed to their defensive structure. And that should help insulate Kuznetsov, who naturally struggles a little bit from time to time on the defensive side of the puck. At number 2, let's go with the New York Rangers. They've been almost a mirror image of the Panthers in their last 16 games from a point perspective and analytically. But for me, it's obvious that the big difference maker has been that goaltender in Shesterkin. He's been a beast. 9-1-1 since All-Star break, and more recently, 2 shutouts in his last 3 games. He's a gamer, and we all know how vital clutch goaltending is come playoff time. And then finally, Gino, at number 1, let's get into it. I've got the Florida Panthers. They're probably my favorite team right now to watch in the National Hockey League. They play a fun, exciting brand. They're in your face, a lot of scrums after whistles. It's dramatic, it's entertainment. I love it. And they've been on fire since February 1st. They're 14-3, and they score plenty. But having said that, they're so effective defensively this year, allowing just 18 goals through 17 games at 5-on-5. So look out for the Panthers. There's a lot to like here in these top 5, particularly in the Eastern Conference. But I have a lot of faith right now in the Florida Panthers.
The Florida Panthers, your top Stanley Cup contender in the Eastern Conference. All right, there's another chase that's catching our attention in the East right now. That's Austin Matthews trying to hit 70 goals this season. Matthews needs 16 in his last 18 games, and Mitch Marner's out again tonight. If he misses more time, do you think that ends Matthews' chances of reaching 70 goals this year?
Yeah, Gino, it's going to be tough. I mean, let's look at the stats here, look at the numbers, the games remaining. And at first, we have to acknowledge it is so incredibly impressive that we're even having this discussion. I mean, 70 is wild. But for me, I mean, you look at needing 16 goals in 18 games. And, you know, as mentioned, the scary part is we know he has the ability to do it, but now you have to factor in the fact that, you know, the scoring pace has slowed down a little bit. 2 goals in his last 8 games, and Mitch Marner being sidelined now, missing tonight's game, at least for the time being, against Philly. So that's just some of the adversity that Austin Matthews is currently facing. And I think I would add and finish off my point with, you know, as a player, being a former guy myself playing in the NHL, you don't want this to turn into some sort of distraction. I think that, you know, a lot of the players in that locker room are more likely, you know, focused and concerned about the playoffs. Historically speaking, this team in recent memory has struggled in the playoffs, in the postseason. So I think if you're a Toronto Maple Leaf right now, you're not necessarily concerned about the accolades, although it's incredible and it's fun to celebrate that. I think the focus really shifts this time of year to that first game of the playoffs.